all special delegates to the House. I would like to remind delegates that in terms of Rule 229 of the Council rules, the time for reply by the President to a question is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for asking of a supplementary question is 2 minutes. The time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. Clarity. I now call on the Honorable the President to respond to the questions, and we will invite the President to the podium to respond to the questions. Thank you very much. The first question is question number 7, as asked by Honorable T.S.C. Dodovu. Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable members, I greet you all in the name of our Republic. The partnership between Brics and Africa has been a prominent theme of our country's chairship of the Brics Summit, particularly during 2023. At the 15th Brics Summit held in Johannesburg, Brics leaders reiterated overwhelmingly their support for the African Union's Agenda 2063. A specific priority in their support has been to support the operationalization of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area through economic and financial cooperation between BRICS countries and African countries. The New Development Bank, also known as the BRICS Bank, has recognized the need for a new financial model for regional and continental infrastructure projects in Africa. Importantly, for Africa's development, BRICS is taking measures to improve the fairness of global trade and financial systems by pushing for the reform of the World Trade Organization and the global financial institutions. The African Union recognizes the use of local currencies as a key instrument for the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. It is therefore significant that BRICS finance ministers will be considering, as well as central bank governors, will be considering the issue of local currencies, payment instruments, and platforms for discussion at the next BRICS Summit. This was decided by the BRICS leaders who felt that we needed to consider various options when it comes to payment systems or local currencies. In August 2023, the National Development Bank issued its debut ZAR, that is the Rand bond, for 1.5 billion Rand in the South African bond market, supporting its ability to lend in local currencies. And as we know, the New Development Bank, the BRICS Bank, focuses on a number of projects, particularly infrastructure, and has also supported our own country on infrastructure project finance. BRICS leaders have reiterated their support for a more peaceful and secure Africa, in line with the principle of African solutions for African problems. In this regard, BRICS supports cooperation between the United Nations and the African Union to address regional challenges such as maintaining peace and promoting peace building, post-conflict reconstruction and development. The BRICS leaders expressed their support for the legitimate aspirations of countries from Africa, from Latin America, and Asia, including Brazil, India, and South Africa, to play a greater role in international affairs, particularly at the United Nations. They called for the comprehensive reform of the United Nations, including its Security Council, to make it more democratic, representative, effective, and efficient. The BRICS leaders appreciated the African leaders' peace mission and the proposed path for peace aimed at the peaceful resolution of the Russia-Ukraine conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. The BRICS leaders also commended the cooperation between the UN and the Africa Peace Security. This council, this includes cooperation on maintaining peace on the African continent. Now, there is a great deal that the BRICS leaders found positive what we are doing in promoting peace on the African continent through strengthening the relevant capacities of African states. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable President, Honorable Dodovo will be the first to ask the follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Mr. President, let me take this opportunity once more to congratulate you and your executive, the public servants, the civil society, and the business community for making an immense and immeasurable contribution to make sure that South Africa hosts a very, very successful BRICS summit. There is no doubt that the summit itself has laid a formidable foundation for the expansion of BRICS to reshape the global order and to advance a multiple polar world order. And following the BRICS summit itself, there was a parliamentary forum that South Africa also hosted, which also made an indelible contribution towards ensuring that BRICS succeeds in terms of its endeavors. In the light of this, Mr. President, to what an extent is South Africa leveraging the opportunity presented by the 2023 BRICS Plus expansion to seek more opportunities for socio-economic prosperity of the people of South Africa and the African continent as a whole?
Over to you, Honorable President.
Thank you. As you well know, the few times that we have had the opportunity to chair the BRICS Forum, we have always insisted that we would like the focus to be on Africa. And as we hosted the BRICS Summit, the theme was to ensure that the BRICS countries focus on Africa. And to this end, we took care to invite many countries on the African continent to be in attendance so that they can have an opportunity to have discussions either through bilaterals or other fora with BRICS leaders. And this happened. And we were pleased to see that many African leaders, and indeed through their ministers and others, were able to have discussions. And prior to the summit itself, there were a number of other engagements. And you cite one of those, which was the BRICS Parliamentary Forum. There were exchanges at political parties level as well. The youth also had an opportunity to intermingle with young people from other BRICS countries, as did the women in the various countries as well. This, in many ways, is aimed at enhancing people-to-people contact, but it is also aimed at extending economic development right across our continent and also promoting trade. I believe that many deals were arrived at during and after the BRICS summit, and this to us is clear testimony of the importance of BRICS. We as a country have benefited a great deal by the association with other BRICS countries, and China today is our largest trading partner, and this has largely been cemented, upheld, and encouraged by our membership of BRICS. And indeed, many other BRICS members who have now been admitted are going to find that BRICS is an important forum that goes beyond just the political engagements at that level, but also involves economic development, trade extension, technology extension, and many other beneficial areas that advance humanity. So for us, the expansion of BRICS to bring it to up to 11 members has really given a great boost, particularly to the Global South. And we are, as it is now, going to consider the membership applications from many other countries that want to be part of BRICS. So BRICS continues to grow. It continues to grow in importance economically, politically, as well as trade is concerned. So BRICS is the great attraction that many countries now see for development. And we want to keep BRICS as an important forum, as an important partnership that progresses countries that are associated with it or part of it. So the summit that we held here was, as you correctly say, a hugely successful summit. And we are proud that the people of South Africa were part of it, embraced it, and also enabled it to happen here on South African soil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We are continuing. And Honorable Ms. DC Christians, you will be the next one for the follow-up.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and good afternoon, Mr. President. Mr. President, in light of the substantial financial resources allocated for hosting the recent BRICS Summit in South Africa, including approximately 75 million rand in expenses, the deployment of 5,234 South African Police Service members, and 726 SAPS vehicles. Could you please explain, Mr. President, how these expenditures align with the country's broader economic and development priorities, particularly in addressing urgent domestic challenges such as the increased food and fuel costs, unemployment and poverty? Given the current problems facing our country, what immediate benefits and assistance are South Africans receiving as a result of hosting the summit? Thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
President.
Thank you. The mere holding of a summit as large as the BRICS summit was, and this by any measure was the biggest BRICS summit, brings together a huge number of people, many of whom come to South Africa either for the first time, they come to spend their money here. One country alone, China, brought up to 600 people who, due to their presence here, needed beds to sleep in, needed food, transportation, and all that. And many other countries also brought a number of delegates to come and attend. Now, when you have an event like that, it inevitably leads to an economic benefit immediately, because many of these people come holding money from their own countries to spend here. So it increases the number of people who work. And beyond that, just the association in BRICS, as I was saying, leads to a great deal of economic benefits for our country. And we have seen such. The growth of our trade with BRICS countries has grown by leaps and bounds. And many of the areas in which our trade has grown has been by virtue of being associated in Brics. So there is a clear economic benefit there. And as we hold bilaterals with the Brics countries here, we don't only talk politics, we also talk about economic development, about trade, about goods that we can sell to each other, products we sell to each other. To give you a very good example, President Xi Jinping of China kept on saying, we want more and more South African-made goods. Bring your goods to China so that we can buy your goods. And similarly with India, and similarly with Brazil. And all those countries that have now newly been admitted to Brics are going to have precisely that type of approach and disposition. So the money that was spent, be it for having our security service people, making sure that there is order and peace, be it a number of other government officials who were providing various services, is far less than the gains we are going to make from the Brics Association. And for starters, just by holding that summit in itself was a huge boost, not only to the image of our country, but also in trade and economic terms. So be rest assured, Brics is a great benefit to our country, and it's an association that we're very proud of, and that we intend to continue with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. The next follow-up, Mr. M.A.P. De Bruin.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Honorable President, with regards to countries like China, Russia, and Brazil that form part of Brics, what will you do, Mr. President, to ensure that these countries don't use South Africa as a product dump?
As a what? Sorry?
As a product dump, only to benefit themselves at our expense. And examples of this is, for instance, the amount of chicken that is being offset to South Africa by Brazil, and the amount of sugar that we are currently importing instead of rather using our own sugarcane farmers. Now, Honorable President, it is important that local food security is protected, and also protecting the local economy and ensuring affordable food prices. And this product dumping is detrimental to our agricultural sector, benefiting only the larger Brics countries. So what will your government do, Honorable President, to rectify this and to avoid this in the future? Thank you.
Our government, Mr. De Bruin. Honorable President.
I was actually going to try and correct the honorable member. You are a South African citizen, even if you belong to another party. This is our government. It is the government of the people of South Africa. So let's be clear about that. So we are alive to the issues that you are raising, and thank you once again for being a sensitive South African to raise issues like that. Because for us, food security is one of the key important priorities that we need to focus on, and to ensure also that the rise in food prices, living prices are curbed as much as possible. Issues such as the ones you are raising, where cheaper products come into our country, are matters that we discuss at a fairly extensive and deep level with our trading partners, because we would like to have fair trading relationships with those countries. And much as the prices may be lower because they are able to have much lower production costs in their own country, when they come here, they threaten the jobs of South Africans. And that's precisely what we need to focus on as South Africans. We have been engaged in similar talks and engagements with many other countries, be it the United States and Europe, and our colleagues, my colleagues in government, continue to engage with those countries. And those matters are dealt with through trade protocols that we have, because we don't, in the end, want our country to be a dumping ground. We want to trade fairly with those countries and be able also to export a number of products to them, including agricultural products. As it is now, yes, those products that you mentioned are also exported by South Africa to other countries. Now, obviously, there is that process in which we have to balance everything, where we have to balance our trade and the various products that we exchange between countries. So those discussions are quite extensive. And as you may well know, they are also regulated by the World Trade Organization, which, as I said earlier, we want to see being reformed to enable various countries, particularly the global South countries, to participate fairly on par with your Northern Hemisphere countries as well, who at the moment seem to be in a much dominant position. So discussions are ongoing on that, and trade treaties that we enter into focus on matters like dumping. As it is now, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is going to stand us in good stead, because it is going to promote trade amongst African countries so that we are able to trade as African countries amongst ourselves to increase the level of food security, to increase the level of locally made products between and amongst our own countries on the African continent. So the issue you raise is a very good point, and I applaud you for that. But I remind you once again, it is our government and not a government of one section of the people of South Africa. So when I get a moment to have tea with you, I will try to train you to say our government rather than my government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. The last follow-up for this question is from our Chief Whip, Honorable Mr. S.J. Mohai.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. And let me start, of course, by saying, Mr. President, your sterling leadership to our country and the continent on these critical areas of work to focus our attention on economic growth and development, and also to particularly pay more attention on the integration of the continent's economy is most welcome. And we also must say, Mr. President, that it is, of course, appropriate that we discuss economic benefits of belonging to Brics and the implication of its expansion to our own domestic economy and the rest of the continent. Perhaps the question could be, Mr. President, how will, as you have alluded to on the agricultural products, how will Brics help us to advance the objectives that are set out in the Africa Continental Trade Area? Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Whip, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Our association with Brics or with Brics countries benefits us in more than one way, in that the focus on economic development becomes the centerpiece of the relationship we all have in Brics, and we've made that very clear from the beginning. And if you look at the declarations that emanate from the Brics forums, you'll find that economic development is really at the center of what we see as promoting a good relationship amongst Brics countries. And as part of that, we also focus on what each of the Brics countries can draw strength from each other. And from other countries, we draw strength from their technology, their way of doing things. Those that are excellent we want to learn from, we want to be able to emulate them, and we also want to exchange views and experiences with them. And when it comes to trade, particularly trade, we are trading extremely well with many of those countries, and that in itself leads to the creation of jobs in our own country. We have seen enormous growth in trade, and just as the Brics countries were here, we were able to reach agreements, for instance, on agricultural products, for the exportation of our beef to China. That had been closed because of foot and mouth disease challenges, and when it reopened after negotiations with us, the level or the quantity of the beef that we could export to the Chinese market had grown exponentially. Now, with the newly admitted members, such as the UAE and Saudi Arabia, we're now able to export some agricultural products to them in larger quantities. And that in itself leads to great benefits for South Africa as a country and the people of our country, because it leads to increase in employment. And from them, we also get technology. For instance, Brazil is a country similar to ours in many ways, but they've distinguished themselves when it comes to the usage of technology, when it comes to the agricultural area. And we can learn a lot from them, and we can import really well-made products. But that does not mean that we don't get similar products from other countries in the global north. We do get those, but our association in Brics, and particularly for various countries on our continent, is what is top of mind as we seek to develop ourselves and our countries on the African continent economically. So I should not repeat once again that this is one relationship which perhaps apart from our membership of the United Nations is very key to the development of our own country. And we are very proud to be in that type of club that is so important and growing by leaps and bounds. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable the President. We will now come to question number 8, as was asked by Honorable Tim Brathwaite.
As part of this, the strengthened effort to combat economic sabotage, the South African Police Service has established 20 economic infrastructure task teams throughout the country, and they spread throughout our various provinces. Of these, 18 have been established at district level and 2 at provincial level as well. A total of 946 personnel have been allocated to the 20 economic infrastructure task teams from existing structures within each province and district. They are experienced. The people who've been put there are knowledgeable within their respective functional environments. The teams integrate processes, but they also integrate resources and intelligence across all the operational environments of the South African Police Service under a single command. This is to enable them to successfully combat essential infrastructure crimes, but also to focus on illicit mining and extortion within the construction sector. These teams incorporate personnel from the SAPS division, such as crime intelligence, visible policing and operations, and the detective and forensic services, as well as the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. They also work with other role players on an ad hoc and ongoing basis. These include the National Prosecuting Authority, the Financial Intelligence Center, relevant government departments, the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, as well as the South African Revenue Service. They also work with state-owned enterprises such as Transnet and Eskom and other industry players. Various resources are made available to these task teams, ranging from vehicles, no doubt, which they use, radios, and many others that they need to have at their disposals. An operational budget of some 20 million was ring-fenced and allocated for the implementation of the task team work during 2022-2023 financial year, and another 17 million has also been allocated. Between their establishment in June last year and the end of June this year, these teams have made over 4,000 arrests with respect to the damage of essential and critical infrastructure. They have also arrested over 70 people with respect to extortion at construction sites and made over 3,000 arrests for illegal mining. Now, these teams have confiscated significant quantities of items such as copper cable, rail tracks, and other metals as well. The sabotage of our infrastructure and our economy continues to pose a great threat to the country's development. However, through the work of the economic infrastructure task teams, together with partners in the state, as well as the private sector, we are making progress in combating these crimes. One needs to hear the accounts from the key role players here, from business as well as the operatives on the ground, as they relate the various events or operations that they get involved in, and how they go about dealing with those who are transgressing the law. I think we are making progress. It is an enormous challenge that our country faces, but we are focusing on this. And my discussions with the members of the South African Police Service and those who are responsible tells me that progress is being made and will definitely be made in this regard. So we wish them well in their important task, and we will continue to give them the resources that they need to make sure that these types of crimes are brought to book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. The first follow-up will be from the Honorable Brics.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable President, I note with great interest your statistic of 70 arrests for extortion. It's a bit at odds with Minister Zikalala's 200 arrests, but I'm sure the truth falls somewhere in between. Mr. President, the issue of construction mafia has, and I don't know if you're aware of this, morphed far from just construction mafia, but it's morphed into classic mafia practice. So-called business forums, often aided and abetted by taxi association aligned security companies, arrive at businesses, not construction firms, fully armed, and simply take over. They then instruct the owners of the business that they, from there on, will issue the contracts for cleaning services and for security services. And they often then also demand a Zuma-approved 30% stake in the business with no intervention whatsoever. Mr. President, shortly after submitting this question via Parliament to the Presidency, there was a massive flurry of activity in all the units around the country. I'd obviously been doing research with these units, and they were initially one person per province, Mr. President, and now they are functional units. So whether by pressure or by coincidence, that is to be welcomed. The issue I want to raise with you, Mr. President, today is that we need to move this focus away from construction firms only. There are a lot of businesses in South Africa that have been captured in the way I've described. Are you prepared to establish urgently
a presidential or presidency hotline that business captures can be reported to and receive the required SAPS intervention in order to smash these mafia cartels once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pratesit, President.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that you have taken notice of the activity that is now getting underway in a much more vigorous way with regard to dealing with these criminals who go to building sites and try to extort money. But as you also correctly say, they've now morphed into being something else. They are now gangs that go around intimidating business people, taking over building sites. We are aware of this, and that is why the tasked teams have been enhanced, and that is why we are deploying enormous resources to enable them to do their work. Now, when it comes to setting up a presidential hotline, we are improving the functionality of the usual hotline that the police have, so that various citizens, the citizens of our country, can have better and more effective and efficient access to their communication with the police. Now, that hotline is a matter that is being discussed in the various engagements that we are having at the national level, where business leaders, as well as government leaders, get together, and on a 6-weekly basis, they come and report to me with regard to the progress that is being made. As you may well know, we've set up a number of work streams. One of them deals with crime and corruption. And as part of that, we're looking at communications that will give a sense of safety to our people, that they will have a hotline that they can have access to. It's the usual police line that we've had in the past, but it's being enhanced. It's being made better. A great deal of improvement is underway in that regard, and the presidency is involved in making sure that that hotline becomes more and more effective. Now, business people will be able to resort to that line, but we will examine precisely what you are saying to see how best we can give more assistance. And it's not only to business people, it's also to the workers, because as these thugs get to building sites, they also attack workers, and they subject workers to a great deal of pressure to do wrong things from time to time. So all these matters are now being focused on vigorously. And I'm glad to hear that you've noticed that there's quite a bit of movement in this regard, and there will continue to be movement. We are going to go after those gangs. We are going to go after those people who hijack either building sites and all that. And all those, whether they are in taxi industry or construction industry, who do wrong things, they will have to pay and be accountable for their wrong activities. That we will give an assurance to our people for. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up will be from Honorable Ms. Shaik.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the Honorable President. Mr. President, it is increasingly becoming clear that if the growing scourge of construction mafias is not addressed, the country's construction industry will be severely disrupted, and the construction industry will continue to lose the skills needed to deliver vital infrastructure projects and create jobs to our people. Mr. President, what measures is the government taking to ensure that construction development involves local business and employ local residents to create community ownership so as to negate extortionists as they masquerade as local business people. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh, Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. I've heard of wonderful experiences of businesses in construction who, as they take up a project, make sure that they interface with a great deal number of people as well as organizations in the area where the project is to be executed. This they do so that the project can be owned by the people in the locality, where they also ensure that there is economic benefit that will flow not only to a group of people, but to the people in the local area. And those businesses that have done that, they have found that there is little appetite for those who would want to come and extort money from them, to hijack the project, because once we have ensured that a project is executed in that way, where the community is involved in one form, shape, or other, and where the jobs that are going to be done are also given to the people in the community, that in many ways serves as a protection for the project itself, because the people in the community will be so jealous of their own project that leads to development for them being taken over by people from the outside. And those business entities that take the time and the trouble to get even associations in the area involved, women's associations, youth associations, business associations, even sporting associations in the area, including taxi associations, they find that the project can progress much more efficiently without much trouble. Now, I've heard these stories from a number of business people in the construction industry who, even as I ask whether their project has been taken over, they say no. And when I ask the reason, they give me that type of reason. I do believe that with any activity, economic or otherwise, it is always best to involve the community, whether it's a construction of a school, whether it's of a clinic, or whether it's of a building. If people in the community are involved and consulted and informed what the benefits of that installation or construction will be, they will embrace it. They will see that they too are going to benefit. And people often, one, want to be informed, to be consulted, and they also want to see themselves being part of any development that takes place. If we don't do that, we give ground to those who may want to come and disrupt. And I would urge people in the business, in the construction industry, to do that as much as they possibly can. And obviously, where that does not succeed, the police, our task teams, as I spoke about them earlier, will always be on hand. And in fact, the starting point should also be involving the police and a whole number of other government agencies to be part of the whole process. And if many of our construction projects can go that way, we will find that things work smoothly and our construction industry also works very well. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable the President. Honorable Mr. N.M. Hadebe Mzungezwa. Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Greetings to His Excellency, the President of the Republic. Mr. President, considering that these special units consist of individuals with a specified skill set, I would like to know how the recruitment for members of these units works, especially considering that the South African Police Services is already heavily understaffed. Thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Hadebe. Honorable the President.
Thank you. Up to now, the people who are in these task teams have been drawn from various sections of the police service, either from the detective section, from the static policing section, and from the public protection service and all that. So they have been drawn from the various, if you like, departments of the South African Police Service. Now, as well as crime intelligence. So they are a multidisciplinary type of team that is involved in this task team. And you raise an important question about the fact that our police service is short-staffed. We have addressed this, and I've addressed this in the State of the Nation address. And to resolve this problem, we have said that we are going to recruit more. And in the past State of the Nation addresses, I've said we're going to recruit 10,000. They were recruited and they've been trained and they've been deployed in the field. This year, I said exactly the same. They've been recruited, they're being trained, and they are going to be brought into the field so that we bring the levels of our police service members to a level that compares very well with our population numbers. So the recruitment is underway, and we are going to continue bolstering the capability of these task teams. And much as I said, you know, they've been allocated money. The money they've been allocated is still small. I'd like to see more money being allocated to them so that they become much more effective than they are. But believe you me, work is being done. This is an area of focus that is now underway. I've discussed it extensively with the Minister of Police, as well as the commander or the commissioner of police. So there is a great deal of focus, and I do believe that we are going to resolve this problem as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. Finally, on the very same question, it will be Honorable Brataset again.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. The withdrawal of the EFF today has granted me the unique opportunity to ask you a second question, Mr. President. Mr. President.
Yeah, again.
Mr. President, obviously in preparation for today, I've been speaking to a number of stakeholders in this particular issue. And I once again reiterate that we must not focus only on construction site mafia, but mafia right across, as you said, gangs of thugs who just go and capture businesses. And you're quite correct that when construction developers start well and work with the community from the beginning, that's a great insurance policy to defeat this sort of thing. However, the following challenges have been raised with me, Mr. President, and I feel it's right that I raise them to you today and ask you for commitment to addressing these issues. The first one is there is a monthly steering committee that meets with all the provinces around the country that includes business and the SAPS, SSA, and NPA. A large complaint that comes out of those steering meetings is that the SAPS presence is always lacking. So if I could just note that as the first issue. The second issue that is coming out as just a practical issue is that we need a witness security protection program relating to this. The resources and the people involved in this are playing big money games. And somebody who's prepared to raise their hand and say, my business has been captured, should fear for their life. And so the next point I want to raise is a witness protection program that looks after whistleblowers, their financial security, their physical security, and their mental well-being as well. The third thing that is being raised as a practical issue, Mr. President, is a specialized prosecutorial unit that will deal with extortion. Specialized, that deals with extortion and this type of gangland, mafia-style thuggery of extortion, seizing businesses, a specialized prosecutorial unit that will read. Those are the queries that I've had from the business community to you today, sir, and I ask if you could make a commitment in line with your 2020 SONA promise to engage with the ministers of police and of justice to try and get a realization on these critical issues. Thank you, sir.
I'm sure Honorable Bratta said you meant the state of the nation and not the state of the province. State of the nation, not state of the province. That's what I'm saying. Over to you, Honorable President.
I thought he was talking about the 2024 State of the Nation address. Thank you. As well as the 2025 State of the Nation and many others. Well, my answer is very simple and straightforward. All the matters that you have raised, I'm willing to give a commitment to say that the police and where they've been absent and not really giving their full attendance and attention, that will be raised. The issue of the witness protection program is under consideration, and we are putting the bells and whistles of how we can strengthen the witness protection program, and so that whistleblowers will be able to feel free and courageous to come forward. And the prosecutorial special unit is a matter that obviously needs to be looked at. But some people have even said you need to have even special courts, but we leave that one to the side and focus on fighting this level of criminality and make breakthroughs and deal with these gangs. And that is something that is now underway, and we're focusing more intently on it. But thank you very much for the suggestions that you've made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. We'll now come to question number 9, as asked by Honorable Lucas, and Honorable Bartlett will stand in on this question. Over to you, Honorable President.
You're most welcome. The Gender Responsive Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring, Evaluation, and Auditing Framework was introduced as a tool to support the advancement of the women of our country, the young people of our country, as well as persons with disabilities across all government departments. The Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities analyzes the draft annual performance plans of various government departments each year to assess their responsiveness to gender considerations. The findings indicate a gradual improvement since the adoption of the framework in 2019. However, the average overall gender responsiveness score for all national departments is at 54%. Indicating that there is a need for improvement in many department programs as well as projects, and there's also a need to improve the budgeting process. The National Treasury has selected 10 departments to pilot the implementation of the Gender Responsive Budgeting Guidelines for 2024-2025. Before all other departments are required to comply with the guidelines. The Auditor General has committed to a phased approach to the implementation of the gender responsive auditing over the next 3 audit cycles. Evaluations of the implementation of the gender responsive budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation framework has shown improvements in mainstreaming since the framework's adoption, but I must say that progress has not been as even and as fast as we desire it to be. Effective political and administrative leadership is crucial to ensuring sustainable and substantive gender mainstreaming across government. Since the advent of our democracy, South Africa has progressively promoted access to education, to employment, to credit, that is financial credit, property, and land for women in our country. And a number of these areas were areas where women's participation was very, very little, restricted, and in some cases even prohibited. Now we have made a great deal of progress, and we continue to make progress in that regard. Several policies and initiatives have been put in place to increase women's access to finance, to promote economic empowerment as well. Numerous financial institutions and funds have been established to help Black South Africans obtain access to loans, some of which have specifically targeted women. In addition to these measures, there are currently 2 national initiatives being implemented to advance the economic empowerment of women. These are the Women's Economic Empowerment Program, with a focus on capacity building, and the Women Economic Assembly, to facilitate greater access for women-owned businesses to public and private supply chains. Now, to support our goal of directing at least 40% of procurement in public sector procurement towards women-owned businesses, the Women's Economic Empowerment Program has been training women-owned businesses across several provinces. At least 6,290 women business owners have been trained on doing business with government, on knowing how compliance should be structured. Key government departments have integrated gender-responsive procurement in their demand plans and report on this monthly. However, these numbers are still low. Procurement from women-owned enterprises currently stands only at 11% across the public sector. Now, we want to see this number growing to a much higher percentage. Challenges experienced by women entrepreneurs are numerous, and we want to address those. Now, since its launch, the Women Economic Assembly has encouraged industry leaders in the private sector to set gender transformation targets in each industry. Now, through this assembly, billions of rands have been committed by private business to facilitate women's participation in various business endeavors. Now, these are areas where a great deal of progress is being made. And I can say, Honorable Deputy Chair, that a great deal of progress is being made. And I was very proud that progress that's being made with regard to empowerment of women. I was very proud to be the only head of state who, at the UN recently, had a women-only delegation. The only one. Very proud. Now, South Africa has demonstrated that when it comes to women empowerment, we are committed. And we're not committed just to tick, the boxes. We are committed to doing everything we can so that we can empower the women of our country. After all, 2 days ago, we also learned once again that the women are the majority citizens in our country. So therefore, we have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable President. Honorable Bartlett, you will be the first for the follow-up question. I don't know what you will ask now.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Yeah, Honorable Deputy Chair.
The
Sorry.
same thing, don't worry. It's the same.
Thank you. Thanks for the response, Honorable President. Mr. President, what progress is South Africa making in ensuring consequence management and corrective measures in government institutions that show failure to implement gender-related mandate requirements and ensure gender mainstreaming? Thank you very much, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Bartlett. Honorable the President.
Honorable Deputy Chair, we are currently to make sure that there is follow through and the best is done to lead to the empowerment of women in government. We are currently in cabinet looking at a piece of legislation which will be dubbed Gender Empowerment and Women's Empowerment Bill. This is currently being processed through the cabinet, and it will be binding on government institutions and will make sure that there is consequence management for those who are in charge of certain tasks or functions in government, if they do not do what is required of them to enhance and foster the empowerment of women. Now, we are now going to put in place a measure and an instrument that will ensure that people do sit up, listen, and act to empower the women of our country. This is a must. It's not a choice, but it has to be done because the empowerment of the women of South Africa is about empowering the nation. And if we want to ensure that this nation develops and progresses, we must empower the women of South Africa. That will be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable the President. The next follow-up will be from Honorable Mr. F. Du Toit. Mr. Du Toit.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable President, unemployment, poverty, and joblessness is all too common reality in South Africa, and everyone is affected by it. Race-based legislation, employment equity, tenure procedures, all the measures that you mentioned now, the entrepreneurial opportunities, housing beneficiation, etc., all makes provision for the advancement and prioritization of women. Why is everyone, not after 29 years of ANC governance, treated in a similar manner, given equal support, equal opportunities to take part in the economy? Because what we are currently facing in South Africa is affecting everybody, not just certain genders. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Du Toit. Over to you, Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. That is a very important and relevant question. I think the empowerment of the people of our country, and I would hasten to say especially women, is top of mind to our government and the government that I lead. We have made it a priority, an area of focus. And if you like, it starts from the governing party. Governing party has embraced a protocol, practice, and discipline that says there shall be equality between men and women within the structures of the governing party. And when you look at just mere representation in a variety of areas that affect the governing party's life, you'll find that it is a must, it is the law, that there should be a balance. And if there ever is a structure that is put up where there are men only, you must know that it is illegal. It's completely illegal and unacceptable. And where such mistakes are made, they are immediately corrected. Without women ever raising it, it is now raised by men. And men have now taken onto themselves the struggle of empowering women, as I have, because I see the empowerment of women as my struggle as well. I see it as something that has to be done. And we have now transposed that onto government. And in government, we are insisting that the focus must be the empowerment of women. When I said, and this I said without even consultation, I said 40% of procurement in government must be for women-owned businesses. And we are starting from a very low base. Admittedly, we are starting from a very low base where the participation of women in business, particularly in dealing with government, was nearly not even existent. But we have now engendered it. It is now becoming the way of doing things, and we are now going to make it stronger through legislation. That there should be empowerment. There should be gender and women empowerment. And this is now going to be turned into a law. So the empowerment, not only of Black people, but the empowerment of the women of South Africa, regardless of their race, is what is important to us. Because women play a key role in the life of our country, in our families, and therefore we need to empower them and give them the way withal to ensure that, yes, indeed, they search to the fore. I'll tell you a nice story that I heard of years ago. One of our old ministers, Vali Musa, who was a minister, he went to a municipal council. I think it was in Pampierstad. And when he got there, he found that the majority of the councillors were women. And he came back and he said, Broer, the women are in the majority. The men are oppressed in that country. I said, no, they are not oppressed. This is the way to go. The women of our country must be empowered. And that's how it's going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The next will be Honorable Ms. Kathy Labuschagne. Ms. Labuschagne.
Thank you very much, Chair. I can't help to comment that I find very ironic that the men is laughing about the women being empowerment, but maybe as it is. Honorable President, given the fact that inflation is has a disappropriated impact on the lower income households of South Africa, where we as South Africa has more than 40% of our mothers are single parents. Will you advance economic empowerment of women in our country by scrapping VAT on the food items most purchased by the poorest households in reviewing and expanding the zero-rated food basket?
Thank you, Honorable Labuschagne. Honorable the President.
Yes, as you might well know, VAT exemption has been applied on a number of items that are also bought most by people at the lower level of income. This is a matter that continues to occupy the planning, the policy within our Treasury as we continue to look at this matter. So in terms of dealing with the very negative effects of inflation, particularly on the poor, this indeed is a matter that continues to occupy our thinking. And clearly it also involves how one balances everything, because if you do it on one item, the question then arises, why not on the other item, and so forth. So what I can say to you, this is a matter that continues to occupy our thinking and our planning within the treasury circles as well as in government to alleviate the negative impacts that the cost of living is having on our people generally. So we are sensitive to this, and we apply our minds on a continuous basis. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The last follow-up on this question will be from Honorable Ms. N. Inkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Greetings to our Honorable President. Mr. President, the lack of access to business finance for women, particularly African women living in the townships and rural areas, is one of the biggest impediments to their economic empowerment. Honorable President, what progress is the government making in engaging all sectors of society to expand access to financing opportunities for women, particularly those living in the townships and rural areas? And Mongameli siyakuzwa ukuthi kunegxathu enilithathile ukuthi nibasize omama niba empowerishe. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuzinikela kwakho nanokuthi uthathe abomama very serious ubenze i-priority. Keep up the good work that you are doing. Siyabonga.
Asibonge. Nkosi, over to you, Honorable the President.
The issue of ensuring that the women of our country are empowered, as you correctly say, is a very important one. And the focus is now becoming much more in areas where women can be empowered, in businesses, in the townships, in trading, in starting their own businesses, but also in access to finance. Because many would-be women entrepreneurs and business people always find that there are many challenges and impediments, particularly to get finance and get opportunities. And it is in this regard that we want to empower them. Ukuthi omama bethu bakwazi ukuthi ngempela bahlale beyazi ukuthi uhulumeni uyabasupporta ngendlela zonke. And this is something that we are insisting on, and through this bill that we are going to pass, it is going to cascade from national to provincial and to local level. And it is going to keep government officials on their toes to know that whenever there are procurement opportunities, business opportunities, we need to support the women of our country, as well as, if you like, initiatives, economic initiatives. The women must be at the forefront. And that is why we are now training women entrepreneurs in the numbers that I alluded to, but we want to train more and more. Ukuthi babe baningi abazokwazi ukuthi bangene kusoma business, babe ngosoma business ngokwabo bazimele. And we have found that when women run businesses, they are much more focused. They are also, if they're given opportunities, they become very successful. And it's a source of pride, and must be a source of pride for us as a nation, to see women succeeding in businesses and in serious businesses. Asifuna ukuthi baphelele lapha eitrateni, bathengisa amagwinya kuphela, bathengisa ama-vegetables, sifuna ukuthi bakhule ama-business wabo, abe ama-business a-serious, amakhulu, babonakala ukuthi omama ngempela they are succeeding in running their businesses. Now, this is a commitment that we have, and we want to see this fulfilled. Sizokwenza.
Thank you so much, Honorable the President. We will continue, and you will now respond to question number 10, asked by the Honorable N.M. Hadebe.
Okay, question number 10. the granting of a postponement for Kusile Power Station to operate without sulfur dioxide pollution control technology was necessary as a temporary measure to enable the return to service of the 3 units that were damaged in October last year. This is critical to our efforts to reduce the intensity and the frequency of load shedding as a matter of great priority. Now, the granting of this postponement does not deviate from our country's firm affirmation to contribute to the global climate change efforts in reducing greenhouse gases. As a country, we are committed to a just transition to a low carbon economy at a pace and at a scale that is affordable to us. The UN Framework Convention on Climate Change recognizes this need for a just transition and has allowed countries to nationally determine their contribution to a global effort to decarbonization. Now, South Africa committed its nationally determined contribution to the United Nations in 2021. And as I have indicated previously, we remain fully committed to achieving our target for emission reduction. Data from our recent greenhouse gas inventory indicates that we are on track to do so. As part of the granting of the once-off postponement, Eskom must undertake measures to mitigate against the exposure of its employees, as well as our people who live in the surrounding areas of their power stations to harmful emissions. These measures must, at a minimum, include independent health screenings and referral to appropriate public health facilities for treatment where necessary. The end of load shedding and the achievement of energy security for all South Africans is not incompatible with the pursuit of our emission reduction goals. In fact, the massive investment that is currently underway in renewable energy resources, alongside the stabilization and the improvement of our existing generation fleet, will in the end help us to achieve both of these goals simultaneously. We are committed to lowering our carbon footprint, and we will do so at a pace and at a time that is suitable to the conditions that we live under in our own country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President. Any follow-up, Honorable Adebe?
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Your Excellency, Mr. President, it is agreed that a balancing act needs to be found in order to meet global objectives of climate change, whilst ensuring that we have sufficient electricity supply. I would like to know, Your Excellency, what progress has government made in investigating the feasibility of nuclear energy to supplement the ever-growing grid demands of South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Adebe. Honorable the President.
As we have said in the past, our energy is based on a mixed energy type of approach, where we will source energy from a variety of sources. And the simple answer to what you are saying is that nuclear is not excluded from the source of energy platforms that we could opt for. And as it is now, you know that We have nuclear energy that generates quite a handsome number of megawatts for us as a country. And therefore, as we prepare our next IRP, nuclear is going to be one of those that is going to be considered for the generation of energy going forward. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable the President. The next follow-up is from Honorable Bibi.
Ngibonge sekela sihlalo ngokuthi ungineze leli thuba ebese ngibingelela umongameli wethu ohloniphekileyo baba sawubona.
Ngiyabonga mama.
Yeah. Mongameli ohloniphekileyo ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi ingabe uEskom lo usethumele yini imbiko ephelele ecacisayo ngalo moya oyicarbon okuwona obulala umnotho wethu. Mr. President Baba, has Eskom submitted the detailed plan that outlines its mitigation and control measures that are geared towards mitigating in the medium term to ensure that it reduces its carbon emission in line with our nationally determined contribution, as this would negatively impact our economy if implemented in the short term? Ngiyabonga baba.
Thank you, Honorable Bibi. Honorable the President.
Ngiyabonga mama. uEskom uyena owazi kahle ukuthi isimo se-carbon footprint yethu sime njani. Largely because Eskom has for the longest time been the only generator of energy in our country. Now of late, we are bringing in other generators who are coming through with renewable energy technologies, and Eskom is alive and aware of what the fossil fuels are doing to our country and how we can begin to migrate to cleaner energy. Now, we are all aware of what we have determined. We have set out our own nationally determined ambitions, and our ambitions are quite aggressive. But at the same time, we've been very clear in saying we will be able to do so at a time and at a place that is well attuned with our own circumstances. And Eskom, no doubt, is part of that whole plan. And Eskom is one of those entities that, yes, is aware and alive to the fact that we have, yes, to migrate. And much as we are running a fleet of fossil fuel energy generators now, we know that some of those power stations, life is going to come to an end. And as that comes to an end, Eskom knows too that it too has to start migrating. And we have said that Eskom must develop a very clear plan and strategy of how it can manage its own migration in as far as renewable energy is concerned. So it is a well thought out, progressive situation as we move forward. uEskom akavalanga amehlo, uyazi ukuthi sifana ukuthi siye kuphi, ufuna nje ukuthi simnike isikhathi nespace sokuthi akwazi afike lapho mama ngiphelela lapho.
Ngiyabonga President. Thank you, Honorable the President. The next follow-up will be from Honorable Kathy Labuschagne.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. President, we have an electricity crisis in our country as there has been an evident lack of foresight and investment in alternative, cleaner energy sources in the past decade. We also made a commitment to a just energy transition as we move away from carbon-intensive sources towards more sustainable, renewable alternatives. With the self-inflicted electricity crisis, Eskom is under pressure to bring Kusile online to decrease load shedding. Mr. President, you were the Deputy President responsible to help find solutions for Eskom. You were also the chair of the Cadre Deployment Committee of the ANC. And it seems as if all these imprudent decisions also forced your Minister of Environmental Affairs to make an irresponsible decision. Mr. President, considering all this evidence, how do you justify deploying cadres to Eskom who were, and it still seems as if they are still unable, to catalyze a just transition of Kusile, given the environmental impact on the scarce water resources, and more important, or most important of all, the predicted early deaths of at least 320 innocent people in that area, even as an interim measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Labuschagne, Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. What the Honorable Member Labuschagne has referred to is a matter that has to deal with how the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environmental Matters Affairs rather has given Eskom permission, an exemption rather, for the emissions that emanate from Kusile. I have said that this is an interim measure to help us to deal with the load shedding that is currently underway. We are very alive to the negative impact that this is having, particularly on the health of our people. But at the same time, we have to weigh up a number of challenges that we have as a country with regard to the need for energy, as well as the need to ensure that we have a healthy population. Now, this is a balance that we are managing, and as indicated, we are also embarking on mitigating initiatives that will ensure that the health of our people in those areas is well catered for through screenings that should happen, as well as the treatment that should ensue as well. So this being a temporary measure is an initiative that we do believe is well balanced with the needs overall of our people as well as the economy. So this has nothing to do with the deployment of people. It has to do with the reality that we are facing right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The last follow-up for this question is from Honorable T.C. Modise. Order, honorable members, order.
Motlatsa modulasetulo wa ntlo ya di-province tsa setšhaba. Tla ke go leboge mma. Motlotlegi Tautona ya naga. Ke lebogela dikarabo tsa gago tse di maleba, tse di nang le boleng. Go bontsha ga kgoromente ya rona e tsaya kgang ya phetogo ya loapi tsia. E sekagetse tsebe sentle-ntle. Le kgang e leng tlhoba boroko e ya kgaogo ya motlakase. Ra go leboga motlotlegi Tautona gore ka boammaaruri kgoromente o eteletseng pele e bontsha ga e tlisa ditirelo sentle ko setšhabeng sa rona ka kakaretso. Motlotlegi Tautona ya naga, ke kopa hela go botsanyana potsonyana ya gore what is investment that is government undertaking in decarbonizing a technology to leverage coal energy generation as part of our energy mix and national resource. Investment in various decarbonizing mechanisms such as carbon capture. Ke a go leboga Motlatsamodulasetulo.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Modise. Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair, and thank you for the question with regard to what is it that we are doing in relation to the whole process of decarbonization, particularly in relation to the technologies that we are looking at, particularly as it comes to carbon capture. Now, I'm able to say that the Council for Geoscience ke batho ba rutegileng thata, ba tsebang dintho tse botlhale tota, tse ba o reng ha o bua le bona wa utlwa hela gore no ba se itse se ba buang ka sona. Ke bao ba ko geoscience ba tlhalefile thata batho bao. Yaanong batho bao, those people, Honorable Deputy Chair, are piloting a carbon capture project in Leandra in Mpumalanga. And we are funding this whole project. We have also received funding from the World Bank to research the feasibility of injecting carbon dioxide into deep, sustainable geological formations approximately 1 kilometer below the surface. Now, this is an intricate process that is being looked at, and we are rather pleased that we've got an international partnership with the World Bank so that we can move ahead with greater determination when we look at real scientific and technologically advanced areas such as carbon capture. Ke tshepa gore ntho e ba e dirang e tla tswella pele. E tla ba le thuso e kgolo tota e tla kgonang gore e re ise kwa pele re le batho ba South Africa. Ke leboga potso ya gago e o e beileng ka Setswana se se pila se tlhapileng. Thank you.
Honorable the President. The next question, we are continuing, and we are now going to request that you respond to question number 11 as asked by the Honorable F.J. Badenhorst.
The independent panel that I appointed to investigate the circumstances surrounding the docking of the Lady R vessel in Simonstown in December 2022 was led by a respected, reputable, retired judge and two prominent, respected legal minds. The extent of the work undertaken and the information that the panel sought and obtained and analyzed gives me full confidence in the contents of their report. And by the way, as they commenced their work, they asked for anyone with information to come forward and present whatever information that they could have had. And they received information and interviewed a number of people who had submitted information. Now, Honorable Deputy Chair, I have no reason whatsoever to believe the findings of the panel were irrational. In fact, I believe that the findings of the panel were completely rational. As one went through the report, I could find no irrationality. The panel made no finding of involvement by clandestine parties or illegal transactions, and no evidence has been presented to contradict the panel's findings. The contents of the shipment carried on the Lady R are kept secret so as not to compromise the work or the safety of our security forces. I have no intention of compromising this under any circumstances. Section 28 of the National Conventional Arms Control Act makes it clear that information on the quantity of items is shared with Parliament on a confidential basis. Nothing in this act requires disclosure on the intended use of the controlled items. In fact, the act expressly states that information concerning the technical specifications of controlled items may be omitted from a report contemplated in this section in order to protect military and commercial secrets. The work of the National Conventional Arms Control is critical in ensuring that we abide by our international obligations in relation to the transfer and trade in controlled items, and it will continue to do this critical work as provided for in its founding legislation and relevant United Nations conventions. The protection of information related to its work is clearly provided for in the Act and is just as important to its mandate and to national security. Government will continue to respect the requirements of the law and its responsibility to safeguard the security of our nation. And I thank you in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable the President. Honorable Badenos, you will be the first to ask the follow-up.
Honorable Deputy Chair, thank you very much. Honorable President, thank you. Yes, I have the report here of the panel. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Referring to it. As you alluded, you did appoint this independent panel to investigate the Lady R saga, which no doubt, it seems to me, in your mind, has now given you a license to pass go and collect 200 of whatever was on that boat. The inconvenient to collect 200 of whatever items were on that boat.
Oh, okay.
So I'm referring to Monopoly here, if you ever played the game. Pass go and collect 200 of whatever was on the boat. Anyway, the inconvenient truth, Mr. President, is, and you referred to it in your answer now, is that this government wishes to hide whatever pertains to the National Conventional Arms Committee, chaired by a Minister Gugubene in your presidency at the time. This panel's report, referring specifically to the NCACC, in the last paragraph of the report, is highly critical of the lack of communication between ministers, government officials, and the failure to write reports to keep you, the President, abreast of matters of national importance. I've looked and I can't find any report of that NCACC over that period as is required in terms of their parliamentary mandate. Mr. President, this is just typical of what South Africans have come to expect of the ANC government, with a flouting of our laws, total disregard. What mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that this critical committee, as you referred to it, fulfills its mandate without fear and favor? Thank you.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. My answer is very simple and straightforward. As the Honorable Member read the report, for which he thanks me for, the executive summary, You will see, as set out in the final paragraph, that there were certain things that were not done as they should have been. And to that end, we have embarked on a process, as also suggested by the Honorable Judge, that we need to put right. Now, no law, I repeat, no law was transgressed, and processes that should have been embarked upon should have been done. And this is the real advantage of having inquiries, because inquiries come up with evidence of certain things that could have been done better. And as they put them forward as recommendations. And those recommendations are matters that we are attending to. Nothing is ever perfect in life, and no one is ever perfect. We always strive to improve, and in this case as well, the inquiry found that no law was transgressed. However, there are a number of administrative and technical matters that need to be improved. And I thank the Honorable Judge Mojapelo for having come up with that type of conclusion. So these matters, communication and administrative matters, are being attended to, and they are going to be straightened out so that we can prove that, yes, we are a government, your government as well, that abides by the rule of law and that strives to do things correctly as we develop. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable the President. Honorable Mr. M.E. Chabaleng, you have the next follow-up.
Thanks, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Chair.
It's the same thing.
And thanks to the President for this elaborate, explanation to the question as asked by Honorable Badenhorst. Mr. President, it is unfortunate that some people, including political parties in this House, made public noises and statements about the docking of Lady R in Simonstown in December 2022. Despite all those, your response and investigations led by an independent panel has been widely and warmly received. I just want to check what has been the reception of the seriousness in which you address the matter, and what effect is it having at a diplomatic level? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Chabaleng. Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Since we released the report, we have received nothing else but really positive comments all round, and may I say globally as well. They have been really pleased with the manner in which we address this issue that was hyped to incredible levels, that sought to tarnish the image of our country, that also had a negative impact on our economy. We took steps to have this matter investigated, and many people who are careful watchers of our country have said at a diplomatic level, we could not have done it better than what we have done. So it has been well received. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable the President. The next follow-up will be from the Honorable Mr. F. Titoy.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable President, ki bona barata hua niet. You like to talk a lot about this, but usaba hua galeri ar. It seems to be that you were scared to give us all the facts about this Lady R ship. History has proven that every time when the ANC transgresses, you apologize, and then all must be in order. And that is not acceptable to the country, Honorable President. The country cannot trust the ANC government. Knowing that, am I protected, Chair? Knowing that information regarding the docking and the loading and the unloading of the Lady R was handled in a clandestine manner, since the issue arose and the fact was frowned upon, letters by the President formed part of this investigation. You alluded to the fact that the panel that was appointed by you to look at the letters that you wrote. In a government where you are head of state, where the ministers below you transgressed to give you the report that your panel has compiled, and you stated now that you can say that the report was not irrational. You chose your words, and words have power. You didn't say that the report might have been truthful or false. You chose the words irrational. Now, Honorable President, how can the President expect South Africa and the world, for that matter, to believe that this report is in fact truthful when there was no transparency in this whole debacle? And it seems as if the President, with respect, is now hiding behind the act by not revealing the information that the country wants to know, what happened there and what in fact did come in or what was sent out. Thank you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable De Tooy. Before the President responds, Honorable De Tooy, if you read the question, you will see that Honorable Baranos in the question was saying that the issue of irrational. It's not that the President was using that word. I just want to correct that. It is part of the script. Yes. Thank you, Honorable the President. You may continue. Honorable, I am the presiding officer, and I am the presiding officer, and I am responsible for the decorum of this house. So that is the reason why I am making sure that we don't accuse the President of any other thing. Honorable the President, you may continue. Order. I don't know. It is no so pink.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. And thank you for the reference to the wording used in the original question, because that's precisely what I was responding to. The question spoke about rationality, and as a rational person, I responded to that. So you want to know whether it's truthful. I appointed the judge and two other people, and they have given me a report. And the letters that they went through were letters where I was setting out the terms of reference, and I wanted them to look at those as well, and whatever other correspondence that there could have been. Now, you may well want to say this could have been appointed by someone else. There's no one else who would appoint this inquiry. I am the president, and I appointed them. So you cannot run away from that. So there was only one person who could appoint them. So you like it or you don't like it, that is the reality. So they were appointed, and they've come up with a report, and a report that contains the truthfulness of the events as they reported them. And those issues that have to deal with national security, I have decided to keep away from public scrutiny because they deal with national security. And what has that got to do with? It's got to deal with the equipment that is used by our security forces, who risk their lives to defend this country. Now, I'm not about to reveal the things that they use to defend the people of South Africa so that they themselves become vulnerable and the people of South Africa become vulnerable. So that I have said I will not do, because my duty is to make sure that security forces defend the people of this country with the means that they have. So they've been given the means, and those means must not make South Africa or them vulnerable. So take it or leave it. That's what the reality is.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The final follow-up is from the Honorable F.J. Badenos.
Honorable President, it's me again. We should maybe swap badges afterwards. I like yours more.
Mine is for the Springboks.
No, mine's for the country, our country.
Yes, I always wear our country.
Walk into it. Mr. President, thank you so much for once again reassuring us, and you took time to do it. You said twice now that no laws were transgressed with the document of the Lady R. Yeah. Rules, laws, provisions, it would be the same thing. Here's the report. The second last paragraph of this report, I'm going to read it to you. This is your judge, your senior counsel, and another party that compiled this report. And it says, the vessel and those who assisted it contravened a number of provisions that relate to commercial vessels docking at South African ports, including South Africa Revenue Services designation of a port of entry. Yeah. Please answer. Thank you, President. Yeah.
Honorable the President.
What that refers to are the protocols and practices that should have been done in a particular way. No laws, as the judge concluded, were contravened. So those are matters, administrative and technical, which we are going to be attending to. So that is what the reference in the report is about. So as reported by the judge, and as our conclusion also confirms, no laws. However, yes, there were administrative mishaps and missteps that needed to have been followed. For instance, no. For instance, just to give you some color, to report amongst the ministers at the time they should have, to ensure that I also received the report at the time when I should have. So those are the matters that there were missteps over. And I'm rather pleased that the judge has highlighted that, because what is it going to do? It's going to improve the way in which we manage all these things. So they are advisory, they are matters that are going to enable us to handle matters better, matters that will, if they are not handled well, in time will have a negative impact. So that's what I thank the judge for. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. President, we will now allow you to respond to question number 12, as asked by the Honorable A.J. Nyambi, who I have been informed they have requested Honorable Ntube to stand in for him in his question. Over to you, Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. A major intervention by government in response to the youth employment crisis in the country is the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, which was launched in 2020. The Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, which is coordinated by the Presidency, brings together the strengths of well over 50 partners to create more pathways for young people from learning to earning. In addition to key government departments, these partners include the Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator, the Youth Employment Service, and the National Business Initiative. We have developed a pay for performance mechanism that helps local economies to support young people to enter and succeed in enterprises and self-employment. It provides young people with paid community service and other temporary earning opportunities to gain experience, to build their agency, and to contribute to their communities as well. To date, 4.1 million young people are registered and accessing opportunities on South Africa Youth, an online network of opportunities for employment and skills development. Many of these people are young African women and other young people who face exclusion from the labor market. Between April 2020 and June this year, more than 1 million young people have secured earning opportunities on the South Africa Youth Network. Over 1,700 private sector companies are registered on this South Africa Youth platform. Now, these are private companies that search and seek out young people for employment. The Presidential Youth Employment Intervention is integrated with other interventions coordinated by the Presidency. This includes the Presidential Employment Stimulus, which by August of this year had delivered over 1.4 million jobs and livelihood opportunities. More than 80% of these opportunities went to young people. The Presidential Employment Stimulus includes the Basic Education Employment Initiative, run by the Department of Basic Education, which has placed over 850,000 young people as teaching assistants and general assistants in over 23,000 schools in our country since October 2020. Every community has schools, and through this program, every community has had jobs for young people. Through the National Rural Youth Service Corps, nearly 18,000 young people have been trained since 2011 in areas such as agriculture, forestry, fisheries, construction and engineering, and energy, health, and safety and security as well. And this would include in IT, transport, and road management. The Presidential Youth Employment Intervention also includes the revitalized National Youth Service, which enables young people to support development and service delivery in their own communities and contributes to the democratic society. The first phase of the implementation of the National Youth Service saw 47,000 young people engage in community service. Over 10,000 of these young people went on to other opportunities, having been well prepared and trained. The National Youth Development Agency has made progress in supporting young people to make their own businesses by providing them with financial as well as non-financial enterprise development support. Now, since 2021, the NYDA has created over 70,000 such opportunities to young people who are in various forms of enterprise. Now, government's strong partnership approach through the implementation of the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention has strengthened collaboration with the private sector. Our partnership with Employment Youth Service, known as the YES initiative, has to date placed over 119,000 young graduates in workplace experience opportunities, ensuring that young people are able to access their first job and through it gain traction also in the labor market. Nearly a third of the YES alumni have been employed permanently at their placements. Over 1,400 businesses are currently participating in the program. Now, these are business enterprises that have found this youth employment service to be a really good vehicle through which they can offer young people opportunities and in the end begin to choose which of those that have those opportunities can be fully employed by them. We are working to enable self-employment and the involvement of young people in informal micro-enterprises and semi-formal work through initiatives such as the SME Fund. We're also sustaining work experience programs by expanding youth employment service, placement of TVET learners and artisans. Now, these interventions recognize that while government continues its efforts to address the structural constraints on growth, it is imperative in the immediate term to ensure that excluded young people are engaged, they are supported to build their employability and access earning opportunities. The empowerment of young people is one of the key priorities that we have chosen as a government, and we will continue to foster this because we are dealing with people who are the future of this country. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable President. Honorable Nsube, you can ask the follow-up.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair of the Council, Your Excellency, the President. Thank you for your detailed, comprehensive response on the work of the government that is doing to implement a comprehensive youth employment economic empowerment strategy. I think, President, you have really covered the larger part of my question. Just, President, for the benefit of the public, if you can just touch on the government's plan to ensure that our post-schooling education and training aligns with the skill demands of our economy to increase the employability of rates of graduates. Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Nsube. Honorable President.
Education, post-school rather, initiatives are underway, and we are focusing on ensuring that young people who leave school are able to find opportunities either for further learning, for skills acquisition, and it is in this regard that we are wanting to spread more and more of our TVET colleges. And the TVET colleges must be the types that are going to have a number of courses that are going to make our young people employable, so that they learn skills and functional skills, for that matter, that are needed in the economy. And this is a program and a process that we are spreading throughout the country with a great deal of vigor. And we're allocating a lot of resources from various departments of government. And the National Skills Fund is one of those that we are using to foster this process of empowering young people. And as it is now, the National Skills Fund is funding tens of thousands of the training of young people in diverse skills, and some of them becoming artisans, and some of them becoming, getting into skills that are much needed in our economy. So our focus on empowering young people is at a high level, and we will continue to ensure that young people are at the center of many of the initiatives that we embark upon as government. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. The next follow-up will be from Honorable Mr. Dennis Ryder.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
So your party's been talking about unemployment for a very long time. Now, the Freedom Charter said there shall be work and security. The NDP mentions unemployment 108 times. In 2009, your party's manifesto promised to reduce poverty and unemployment by half. You failed. In 2010, you set the target at 5 million jobs to be created. You failed. In 2014, your party promised to create 6 million jobs by 2019. You failed. Your 2019 manifesto set the target at 275,000 jobs a year. You failed. Mr. President, in spite of putting so much focus on turning the tide on unemployment, you failed. Now, you mentioned a number of programs that you've established and initiated, which are welcomed, and yet youth unemployment increased consistently from 35% in 1994 to its present 52%. That's 52% statistically and probably closer to 70% in reality. So considering what you've said with these additional programs and the funding that's gone with them, money is not really the problem. It points to a policy problem, sir. So your policies are not working, Mr. President. Will you today agree to do two things, please? Firstly, commit to an immediate relaxation of the stringent labor laws for all job applicants under the age of 30. And secondly, commit to a full review of the labor laws with a view to making sweeping changes to encourage employers to create jobs, rather than strengthening your alliance partner effectively at the expense of the unemployed. Thank you, sir.
Over to you, Honorable President.
Well, thank you very much. You've cited a number of figures and have underpinned them by saying the governing party has failed and has failed, has failed. The challenge of unemployment is not unique to South Africa, particularly the unemployment of young people. It's a global problem, and it's a massive challenge. And it is something that we should not really play politics about. It's a challenge that is existential for young people. And young people are becoming the majority population in many countries, in our own country as well, as proven by the recent census. And many of them are coming onto the job market year in and year out. And it is a problem and a challenge that we've got to resolve. And we resolve this through a growing economy. We resolve through reforming our economy so that it can attract investors, so that investors can come in their great numbers, invest, and create jobs. This is a process that we are involved in now. We have embarked on huge reforms to ensure that investors are more and more attracted to our country and to create jobs. Now, the initiatives that you have said are to be welcomed are aimed at targeting young people and ensuring that we give them a life chance in training as well as in employment. Now, COVID-19 affected our country horribly, and we lost 2 million jobs. And what we've been seeking to do over the past period is to regain those jobs and to create new ones. And many of those jobs have now been regained. And within a year and a half, we have created almost 2 million jobs, which shows that there is capacity in our economy, much as it is facing challenges. And people have commented that our economy is resilient. And we want it to be more resilient, to be the type of economy that can create jobs. And we work, yes, with the trade unions, with employers in our country to make young people more and more employable. And it is those unions that you dismiss out of hand who are more concerned about the employability of young people. And it is why they support the various initiatives that we embark upon. The issue of labor laws, the labor laws that we have in our country are in support of the working people of our country. Working people of our country have forever required and needed conditions that are conducive for them to work well and to be productive. So we have to balance everything. We have to balance having the type of labor laws that can enable 16 million employed people in South Africa to work well, but at the same time to ensure that we open up space for more young people who should be employed. And we've embarked on these initiatives to achieve precisely that balanced outcome. And I would say that the initiatives that we've embarked upon are supported even by business. Together with business in our engagements, we are focusing on how we can enhance the employment of young people. So this is a joint effort. That is why I say it's not a matter to be politicized. It's a matter that we need to work together on. So if you have ideas, if you have proposals, please bring them forward so that we can improve the lot of young people in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. The next follow-up will be from Honorable Mr. N.M. Hadebe. Honorable Mr. Hadebe.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Your Excellency, whilst we appreciate any efforts made to bring certain industries to South Africa, we are concerned about the misalignment of the industries coming to the country versus the hundreds of thousands of graduates we produce per year. Whilst previously the graduates who took a knock the most were graduates in the humanities, nurses and doctors have recently joined this never-ending queue. Therefore, Your Excellency, I would like to know what plans you have in place to implement interventions that will align with the skill set derived from the qualifications offered by our institutions of higher learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hadebe. Honorable President.
We are indeed focusing, Honorable Deputy Chair, on seeking to align the qualifications that young people get at institutions of higher learning and colleges as well with what the job market requires. And that is why we are encouraging cooperation between employers and institutions of higher learning. What I have been fostering more is the partnership that should exist between institutions of higher learning, particularly our colleges, with businesses. Now, this one also got to learn quite a lot from the German experience. They have a wonderful system where they partner those who are being trained with companies. They do their academic training and then do their experiential or work experience training. And the two work in tandem. And as they work in tandem, when a young person completes their qualification, they now have work experience as well as have a chance to get a job. So that is what we're also seeking to move towards. And where we find that partnership, and a partnership that is based on the employers also making a contribution to the curriculum structure or framework so that we make our young people more employable. So we encourage businesses to come forward, to look at the type of training we give. We even encourage some of them to participate in the teaching because they will be teaching from a much more advantaged position where they have deep knowledge of how the work is performed, and so that it does not just become academic. So we're seeking to synchronize all that so that we make our young people more and more employable. And that is why through the YES program, the Youth Employment Service Program, which I launched a few years ago, we've been able to make a great deal of progress. And those young people who are brought into the world of work, even on a short period basis, are able, as they leave those positions, to get jobs easier. The same thing obtains with the teaching assistants. And as I said, we brought 850,000 young people. And this happened during COVID. As we were going through COVID, we found that 23,000 of our schools needed the support and assistance. And we brought in those young people into the world of work. And many of them are going out more experienced, more attuned to working, and they're getting employment because now they're armed with a measure of experience. So that synchronization for us is very important, and we will continue to improve it as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. The final follow-up will be from the Honorable Ms. D.G. Mahlangu. Ms. Mahlangu, siyathokoza.
Ngiyathokoza. Sekela sihlalo. Ngokuhlonipha okukhulu nokuzithoba, ngithokoze kumongameli. Angithi ngithoma ngokuthi amadlozi wethu abo Charlotte Maxeke, abo Albertina Sisulu nabo Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Nathi ukudobha laba abancancane laba. Laba khona bayasmile. Ngoba mbutho sibuya kiwo mina nawe umongameli. Wahlangana wathatha inqumo. Amapolisi la umhlonisho uRayda akhuluma ngawo. Ene siyazichenya singaboma, sibopha imtsuhwana. Simbetha abokunokhethwayo. Simbetha abobhidi ngokuzichenya. Ngoba umbuso lo ekhaya lo ekhethu weSouth Africa obuswa ngiyo ikhongolose. Wenza lokho sikuthume khona. Wathi wathi thuma mina. Sakuthuma ene namhlanje sinakho siyakubona. Ukhulumile mongameli ngokunengi okukhuluma ngaboma. Ene nakule question umbuzo lo ngisazokubuyelela. Ngiyazi ukuthi uza kudana uHonorable Tutweit ngoba akafuna ubona ngathi sikhethulule labo baba. Sibabelethile sikwazi ukubakhethulula. Mara abomma bebaqiqilizekile ba oppressed ukathathu. Angeke sizisole ngalokho sikwenza namhlanje. Manje simongameli. Angithi kuwe sengiya la bazongizwa khona kuhle phecelezi. They need to invest in the young women. Ngiba specific ngoba ngikhuluma ngabo ma abancane esibabelethileyo. In the economic empowerment and skills development, it remains one of the most urgent and effective means to drive progressive on gender equality. We want to balance the equalities. Ngoba sine triple trajectory that we need to attend to. Poverty eradication, exclusive economic growth, and creative of opportunities, as you have indicated, Honorable President, for women. What progress is the government? That will be my question after making the statement. What progress is the government making in removing the barriers for young women that are facing in accelerating economic and employment opportunities. Abantwana bethu sibabelethileko President. Namachakaza nakhona asicale ngamehlo abovu kuthi sibenzelani nekusasa labo. Bangazisoli nathi
Honorable Member,
asizisoli
as you conclude even your question, your statement took too much time.
asizisoli nasithi malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair. Ngiyabonga.
Sorry, President, I'm speaking without the mic and I'm saying, President, they've been standing for 2 hours and we are still keeping it.
No, I still have a lot of energy left in me. Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Eyona into esifuna ukuthi abantu abasha babereke. Bathole imibereko. Ukuthi bathole amathuba bakwazi ukuthi baphumelele phambili ngempilo zabo. Kakumbi bona laba mantombazana. We're focusing attention also on young women. And if I can tell you that of the almost 1.4 million job opportunities that we provided through all the programs in the presidential employment stimulus, around 60% have gone to women. And most of those would be young women. So our focus is decidedly the empowerment of the women of our country. And we want to establish more and more programs that can draw them in. And young women play a very important feature in that. Those that we brought in as education assistants, about 850,000 or so, the majority of them are young women. And that for us is something that we've got to be proud of. And we're seeking to do it more and more in various areas as well. So even the programs that are supported by the National Skills Fund, 80% of those who were supported are under 35, and the majority of them are also women. So our focus, therefore, is to foster empowerment for the Black people in our country who were denied opportunities, but more importantly, to empower the women of our country, irrespective of race, to empower young people and to focus also on young women. So that for us gives us the mandate that we've got to achieve. And it's a mandate that we are committed to in government. And I am also personally committed to it and will want to find all ways to achieve it. And this obviously we can only do with the full cooperation of all key roles players. Government cannot do it alone. We have to work with various stakeholders. And I want to make a call that all of us here, we should work together and we should not even seek to politicize the issue of the empowerment of young people, nor the empowerment of women in our country. So let's all work together to make women and the young people of our country get great opportunities moving forward. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable President. You may take your seat. That brings to the end the question session. But before we conclude the business of the day, Honorable President,